My sister ruined my wedding, and now she wants me to forgive her. Growing up, my sister Emily and I were inseparable. She was my partner in crime, my confidante, my best friend. But somewhere along the way, things changed. Maybe it was the pressure of always being compared to each other. Or maybe it was just life pulling us in different directions. Whatever the reason, our relationship became complicated. When I got engaged to Sarah, Emily was thrilled, or at least she pretended to be. She offered to help with the wedding planning, and I thought it was her way of reconnecting. But as the months went by, her behavior became increasingly erratic. She'd criticize every decision I made, from the venue to the guest list, and she'd constantly remind me that she'd been there first, since she got married 2 years ago. I tried to brush it off, chalking it up to sibling rivalry. But then came the wedding day. Emily showed up late, wearing a white dress. A white dress. She claimed it was just a coincidence, but the smug look on her face told me otherwise. She spent the entire ceremony whispering to guests, making snide comments about Sarah and me. And during the reception, she got drunk and made a toast that was less about celebrating our love and more about airing her grievances. It was humiliating. Zara was in tears, and I was furious. I confronted Emily after the wedding, but she just laughed it off, saying I was overreacting. Fast forward to now. It's been 6 months since the wedding, and Emily has barely spoken to me. But last week, she called, asking to meet up. She said she wanted to clear the air. I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to hear her out, to try and salvage what's left of our relationship. But another part of me wonders if it's even worth it. Can you really forgive someone who doesn't think they've done anything wrong? I agreed to meet Emily the following Saturday at a quiet cafe in town. The days leading up to it were nerve-wracking. I kept replaying everything she'd done at the wedding, wondering if I was making a mistake by giving her another chance. When I arrived, Emily was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. She smiled when she saw me, but it didn't quite reach her eyes. I hesitated for a moment before sitting down. "Thanks for coming," she said, her voice softer than I remembered. "I know things have been tense, I repeated, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. "You humiliated me, Emily. You made the worst day of my life even worse. And you call that tenses?" She flinched, looking down at her coffee. "I know," she said quietly. "I messed up badly. I've been thinking about it a lot, and I realize now how much I hurt you. I'm sorry." Her words caught me off guard. I'd been expecting excuses, defensiveness, maybe even denial. But there was something in her tone, something raw and genuine that made me pause. "Why did you do it?" I asked, leaning forward. "Why try to ruin my wedding? What did I ever do to you?" Emily took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly as she held her cup. "It wasn't about you," she said after a long pause. "It was about me. I was jealous of you, of Sarah, of the life you were building. And day. My marriage hasn't been great, and seeing you so happy, it just reminded me of everything I don't have." I stared at her, struggling to process what she was saying. "So you took it out on me? On Sarah?" "I know it doesn't make sense," she said quickly. "And it doesn't excuse what I did. I let my own insecurities get in the way, and I hurt the people I care about the most." There was a long silence as I tried to figure out how to respond. Part of me wanted to accept her apology, to believe that she was truly sorry. But another part of me wasn't ready to forgive her, not yet. "I need time," I said finally. "I can't just pretend like everything's okay. You hurt me, Emily. You hurt Sarah. It's going to take more than an apology to fix that." She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I understand," she said softly. "But I want to make things right if you'll let me." In the weeks that followed, Emily made an effort to repair our relationship. She reached out regularly, not to push or prod, but to check in. She apologized to Sarah too, and while Sarah was hesitant at first, she eventually agreed to let Emily back into her life, albeit cautiously. It wasn't easy, and it wasn't quick. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. But little by little, we started to find our way back to each other. We weren't the inseparable siblings we once were, but we were something else, something new, something stronger. Looking back, I realized that forgiveness isn't about excusing the past, it's about choosing to move forward. And while Emily and I still have a long way to go, I'm hopeful that we'll get there together. As Emily continued making efforts to repair the relationship, I began to notice how her actions spoke louder than her words. She wasn't just apologizing, she was showing up, trying to mend what she had broken. One evening, Emily surprised me by dropping by my place with dinner. She had texted earlier to ask if she could come over, but I hadn't expected anything elaborate, a couple of pizzas maybe. Instead, she walked in carrying a bag of groceries, determined to cook. "Since when do you cook?" I asked, raising an eyebrow as she unloaded fresh vegetables and herbs onto my counter. Emily smiled sheepishly. "Since I decided it was time to stop being selfish. I thought a home-cooked meal might soften the tension." The gesture was simple, but meaningful. As she chopped vegetables and stirred sauces, we talked not about the wedding or the past, but about ordinary things. For the first time in months, I felt like I was talking to my sister, not someone I barely recognized. When the meal was ready, she hesitated before sitting down. "I know it's going to take time," she said quietly, "but I'm not giving up. I want us to be okay again." Her vulnerability caught me off guard. I didn't know if we'd ever get back to the way we used to be, but for the first time, I felt like it was possible. Chapter 2. Zara's perspective. While Emily was working on repairing things with me, she also reached out to Sarah. I wasn't privy to their conversations, but Sarah shared some snippets with me when she felt ready. "She apologized," Sarah said one night as we sat on the couch. "Really apologized, not just that surface level stuff. She admitted she was jealous, insecure. Everything you told me she said to you." I nodded. "And how do you feel about it?" Zara hesitated. "I don't know. Part of me wants to forgive her because it feels like the right thing to do. But another part of me, I'm still hurt. It's hard to trust her after what she did." I didn't blame Sarah. Forgiveness was complicated, and it wasn't something that could be forced. Still, I admired her willingness to even consider it. "If you're not ready, that's okay," I said gently. "It's your choice. No one can tell you what's right for you." Sarah smiled faintly, her eyes softening. "Thanks for saying that. I needed to hear it." Chapter 3. A breaking point. Though things were improving, there were still moments of tension, moments where old wounds threatened to reopen. One night, Emily and I were having dinner when the conversation took an unexpected turn. "I don't know why you're still so upset," she said, her tone defensive. "I've apologized, haven't I? I'm trying to fix things." I froze, her words striking a nerve. "You don't get to decide how long it takes me to heal," I said sharply. "You broke my trust, Emily. That's not something you can just fix overnight." Emily looked down, her face flushed with embarrassment. "I didn't mean it like that," she murmured. I hate feeling like you don't want me in your life anymore." I softened, realizing that her frustration was coming from a place of fear. "I do want you in my life," I said quietly, "but it's going to take time and patience." She nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I wait as long as it takes." Chapter 4. The turning point. Months later, Emily invited Sarah and me to dinner at her house. It was the first time Sarah had agreed to spend time with Emily since the wedding, and I could tell she was nervous. But Emily went out of her way to make the evening comfortable, cooking Sarah's favorite meal and avoiding any topics that might stir up tension. Halfway through the night, Sarah surprised us both by saying, "I think I'm ready to forgive you." Emily stared at her, her eyes wide. "You mean it?" Zara nodded, her expression soft. "I do, but I need you to understand that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting go, but I need you to meet me halfway." Emily swallowed hard, nodding quickly. "I'll do whatever it takes. I just want us to be okay again." It was a breakthrough, not just for Emily and Sarah, but for all of us. The path to healing was still long, but we were finally walking it together. Let me know if you'd like more chapters or reflections to wrap up this narrative. There's always room to explore the complexities of rebuilding trust and family dynamics. While Emily was working on repairing things with me, she also reached out to Sarah. I wasn't privy to their conversations, but Sarah shared some snippets with me when she felt ready. She apologized, Sarah said one night as we sat on the couch. Really apologized, not just that surface level stuff. She admitted she was jealous, insecure. Everything you told me she said to you. I nodded. And how do you feel about it? Sarah hesitated. I don't know. Part of me wants to forgive her, because it feels like the right thing to do. But another part of me, I'm still hurt. It's hard to trust her after what she did. I didn't blame Sarah. Forgiveness was complicated, and it wasn't something that could be forced. Still, I admired her willingness to even consider it. If you're not ready, that's okay, I said gently. It's your choice, no one can tell you what's right for you. Sarah smiled faintly, her eyes softening. Thanks for saying that. I needed to hear it. Though things were improving, there were still moments of tension, moments where old wounds threatened to reopen. One night, Emily and I were having dinner when the conversation took an unexpected turn. I don't know why you're still so upset, she said, her tone defensive. I've apologized, haven't I? I'm trying to fix things. I froze, her words striking a nerve. You don't get to decide how long it takes me to heal, I said sharply. You broke my trust, Emily. That's not something you can just fix overnight. Emily looked down, her face flushed with embarrassment. I didn't mean it like that, she murmured. I hate feeling like you don't want me in your life anymore. I softened, realizing that her frustration was coming from a place of fear. I do want you in my life, I said quietly. But it's going to take time and patience, she nodded, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. I'll wait as long as it takes. Months later, Emily invited Sarah and me to dinner at her house. It was the first time Sarah had agreed to spend time with Emily since the wedding, and I could tell she was nervous. But Emily went out of her way to make the evening comfortable, cooking Sarah's favorite meal and avoiding any topics that might stir up tension. Halfway through the night, Sarah surprised us both by saying, I think I'm ready to forgive you. Emily stared at her, her eyes wide. You mean it? Sarah nodded, her expression soft. I do. But I need you to understand that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting go, but I need you to meet me halfway. Emily swallowed hard, nodding quickly. I'll do whatever it takes. I just want us to be okay again. It was a breakthrough, not just for Emily and Sarah, but for all of us. The path to healing was still long, but we were finally walking it together. With time, Emily, Sarah, and I began to find a rhythm, an unspoken understanding that healing isn't linear. There were still moments of tension, but they became fewer and farther between. Emily showed up consistently, her actions speaking to the sincerity of her intentions. And Sarah, while cautious, slowly began to let down her guard. One evening, Emily invited us all over for dinner. It was meant to be casual, a simple meal to celebrate Sarah's birthday. But when we walked into her home, we were greeted by a beautifully set table, twinkling candles, and a banner that read, Happy birthday, Sarah. Sarah blinked, clearly touched by the effort. Emily, you didn't have to do all this. You wanted to, Emily said, smiling. You deserve it. The evening was filled with laughter, warm conversations, and a sense of togetherness that hadn't been there for years. As we sat around the table, I couldn't help but feel grateful for second chances, for growth, and for the people who make life worth living. Months later, Emily and I found ourselves alone together, sipping coffee and chatting about everything from work to vacations. But as the conversation flowed, Emily brought up something unexpected. I've been thinking a lot about our childhood, she said, her voice thoughtful. Do you remember how we used to sneak out to climb that old oak tree in the backyard? I smiled, the memory coming back in vivid detail. Of course, we'd spend hours up there pretending we were explorers. Emily chuckled softly, then grew serious. I miss that. I miss how close we used to be. Me too, I admitted. But things change, Emily. Life happens, and while we might not be those kids anymore, that doesn't mean we can't be close again. Emily's eyes softened, and she reached across the table to squeeze my hand. Thank you for giving me the chance to prove myself. I know I haven't always been easy to love. You're my sister, I said simply. Easy or not, I'll always love you. The moment felt like a turning point, a quiet but powerful affirmation of the bond we were rebuilding. As the years went on, our relationship continued to grow. Emily and Sarah developed a genuine friendship, one built on mutual respect and a shared understanding of the past. And Emily and I found our way back to the kind of connection we hadn't realized we were missing. It wasn't perfect, but it was real, and in the end, that's what mattered. Looking back, I've come to understand that forgiveness isn't about erasing the pain, it's about choosing to move past it. It's about recognizing that people can change and giving them the opportunity to prove it. Emily proved it, and while our journey was far from easy, it was worth every step. 2 years have passed since the wedding debacle, and in that time, my relationship with Emily has grown stronger than I ever thought possible. Sarah and I recently celebrated our anniversary with a small gathering of close friends and family. Of course, Emily was there, not only as my sister, but as someone I could now genuinely call a friend again. It was during that evening, as we sat around the table laughing and sharing stories, that I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time, a sense of completeness. The pain of the past hadn't disappeared, but it had softened, replaced by the warmth of connection and forgiveness. Emily pulled me aside later that night, a glass of wine in her hand and a soft smile on her face. "You know," she said, "there was a time I thought I'd lost you forever. I still can't believe we're here, that you gave me another chance." I smiled back at her, feeling a lump rise in my throat. "We both made mistakes, Emily, but I'm glad we didn't give up on each other." She raised her glass. "2 second chances and to the best brother a girl could ask for." I clinked my glass against hers, laughing. "I'll drink to that." One of the most surprising developments came about when Emily decided to channel her own experiences into helping others. Inspired by the forgiveness and second chances she'd received, she started volunteering at a local support group for people working through family conflict. At first, it was just a way for her to give back, but over time it became a passion. "I've been thinking about starting my own group," she told me one afternoon over coffee. "Something focused specifically on rebuilding trust in sibling relationships. What do you think?" I grinned. "I think it's perfect. If anyone understands what it takes to rebuild trust, it's you." Emily's group quickly gained traction, drawing in people from all walks of life who were looking to mend their own fractured family ties. Watching her help others was nothing short of inspiring, and it reminded me of just how much she'd grown. The holidays became a time of renewal for our family. Zara, Emily, and I started a tradition of hosting a joint Thanksgiving dinner, inviting not just family, but also friends and anyone who needed a place to belong. It became a celebration of connection and gratitude, a reminder of how far we'd come. During one of these dinners, as we all sat around the table, Emily raised a toast. "To family," she said, her voice filled with emotion. "To the people who stand by us even when we don't deserve it. And to the love that keeps us going." Her words struck a chord, and as I looked around the table, I realized just how much we'd all changed and how much stronger we were because of it. The journey with Emily wasn't easy, and it wasn't perfect, but it was real. And it was worth it. In the end, forgiveness wasn't just about letting go of the past, it was about creating a future where love and understanding could thrive. And for that, I'll always be grateful. Update 1. It's been 5 years since the wedding fiasco, and Emily and I have come a long way. But something unexpected happened recently. Emily gave me a handwritten letter. "Before you read it," she said, her tone nervous, "I just want you to know that I've been holding on to a lot of guilt, and I needed to get it out." The letter was raw and heartfelt. An unfiltered confession of everything she'd struggled with, her jealousy, her insecurities, and how they'd led her to hurt the people she loved most. But it wasn't just an apology. It was a promise to never let her emotions get the better of her again. As I finished reading, Emily sat there, fidgeting with her hands. "I meant every word," she said softly. "I know I can't undo the past, but I'll spend the rest of my life proving I'm better than the person I was." I nodded, touched by her vulnerability. "You've already proven that, Emily." Update 2. Zara and I recently welcomed our first child, baby girl named Mia. Emily was one of the first people we called, and to our surprise, she showed up at the hospital with tears in her eyes. "She's perfect," Emily said, cradling Mia in her arms. "I'll do everything I can to be the best aunt she deserves." Watching Emily hold Mia was surreal. It felt like the ultimate symbol of how far we'd come, not just as siblings, but as people who chose to heal together. Emily's bond with Mia has only grown since that day, and seeing her as a loving and attentive aunt has brought an entirely new dimension to our relationship. The holidays have become something special for our growing family. Emily goes out of her way to plan activities for Mia, from baking cookies to setting up scavenger hunts. It's become a tradition, and one that Mia looks forward to every year. One Thanksgiving, as we sat around the table, Mia asked Emily, "Why do you do all this stuff for me, Aunt Emily?" Emily smiled, her eyes soft. "Because you remind me of what really matters, family. And I'll never take that for granted again." It was a simple moment, but one that resonated deeply. Emily's transformation has been remarkable, and while the road to forgiveness was long and bumpy, I can say with confidence that it was worth every step. If you like this video, please subscribe for more.